welcome to the video where I talk about the times I went to Kazakh weddings. So I've actually only been to one Kazakh wedding, you can say, and it was over a year ago. And then I didn't make anything for almost a year. We could say Kazakh weddings come in two parts. The first part is the bride farewell party, kız uzatı, and then there is Alina, or the wedding where the bride comes to the groom's family's location. So if we were talking about what happened in the past, people would go to the bride's village, pick up the bride, then travel to the groom's village, which may take months at some times. Now, that's not how it works today, but we still have kız uzatı, the farewell party or the going away party for the bride, and then Alina, the wedding for the groom. And these two events also have sub-events, and we'll talk about everything. I'll try to cover everything, but let's set some ground rules first. One, you're not allowed to make fun of or criticize the people at this wedding. I know some Kazakhs are gonna be like, that's not how it's supposed to go, it's supposed to be different. Weddings are personalized. In the comments, if you feel like, oh, this isn't normal, this isn't what people normally do, you can mention that, but we're not criticizing my friends. Secondly, this is not an all-inclusive video about Kazakh weddings. Like I said, each wedding could be a little bit different. This is just one example, and it's my experience as a foreigner, okay? It's not anything groundbreaking. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not giving a full thesis, dissertation on this topic. It's just my own experience. And if I miss some things, I'm sorry. There was a lot going on. It was my first time there, so I had no idea what was happening the whole time. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. So let's talk about kız uzatı. So I went to the kız uzatı, the bride's farewell party in Taraz. The bride is from Taraz. And when you get to the venue for both types of weddings, there is a setup. You're supposed to sit at a specific table, just like other weddings. Most of the time they group these people together in families. There was a few foreign guests, so all the foreign guests were put together at this one table. Now, I'm gonna apologize. For the kız uzatı, I don't have a lot of footage. You're gonna see this face a lot because I had no idea what was happening. So one part of the beginning of any wedding is that relatives come in and they throw candy or money, and it's called shashu. And if you catch or pick up any of this candy or money, it's supposed to be good for you. But the family comes in with some music, some dancing, and usually it's the guest family. We should also talk about the basic format of any Kazakh wedding, which is eating food, dancing, watching performers dance, watching performers sing, and giving speeches. Those things can be rearranged in any order, but you will basically have a pattern of speeches, dancing, singing, speeches, eating, stuff like that. And when you arrive, there's already food on the table. This is like salads, cold entrees, and you eat that. Eventually, you also get beşparmak. There's also usually dessert or some type of tea. But that's towards the end. And Kazakh weddings, compared to the US weddings, last so long. Kız uzatı, I think, was 5 hours. Now, Kazakhs will say, oh, that's not long at all. For me, it was long because every single person has to give a speech, or almost every single person. So everyone comes up in these groups, mostly by tables, to give speeches. And at the kız uzatı, I was forced to give a speech. I was listening so hard to the Kazakh that other people were saying and trying to figure out what I was gonna say in Kazakh. I also said something in English, but basically, you know, the phrases are bakıtlı bolsun, kutlu bolsun, kız uzatı kutlu bolsun, which basically means like, may you be happy, may this wedding be good, stuff like that. So I said that, but I didn't expect it. I started almost crying. My eyes welled up, and I guess it's because it was my dearest Kazakh friend, you know, getting married. Also, I will note that a lot of people were saying good luck about having many children. I'm pretty sure somebody said that they should have 9 children. So we can see here that getting married and having children are very important and things that people repeatedly wish. And the last part of kız uzatı is the bride leaving. Now, this white carpet or white piece of cloth is laid from where the bride is standing to the door. And what happens is they play this emotional music, and every person says goodbye to the bride. And this is the time where everybody cries. Like even my friend Alina, who was the bride, said she thought she wasn't gonna cry, but then she started crying because everybody is basically saying goodbye to the unmarried bride. Bean, if you hear a cat in the background, I'm fostering and he won't shut up. And one key feature about this is the bride shouldn't look back. She's not supposed to look back at, I guess, you know, metaphorically, her past life, her family. She's supposed to just look forward and leave that way. And that was the end of the wedding, or the kozozatu. I call it a wedding. It's easier to call it that way, but it's the farewell party of the bride. Another part of the wedding process that is important is Kydalyk. So when the two sides of the family meet for the first time, it might not be the first time, but for the official first time. Kyda is the two relative sides together. So like a mother of the groom and a mother of the bride, they're Kyda. Kydalyk is those two people meeting. So when the groom's family comes to the bride's family, they're supposed to bring a lot of things. They bring gifts for the bride's family. And one of these is a carpet. Oh, we rode a train to Taraz. And I saw the groom's family literally carry a carpet onto the train. And there's these baskets full of like goodies, I guess you could say, that they're supposed to disperse. And another part of Kydalyk is surga salu. So that is putting earrings on the bride. They're supposed to be nice earrings, but the in-laws of the bride, the soon-to-be in-laws, are the ones that put the earrings on. And we could say this is something like a wedding ring, but it's this official marker that this woman will be married or is married, and that woman will wear those earrings after the wedding too, like in her daily life. So they're supposed to be something that she can wear. I didn't get to see that. It's a bit of a personal event, you know, and I'm not any part of the family, so I didn't get to see it, but I wish I could. It sounds very interesting. That part, Kydalyk, also happens at that time. Next up is Toy, or the marriage party, the actual marriage event, I guess you could say. This one, for the wedding I went to, was in Semye. If the bride and groom were to travel, they'd travel from Taraz, which is in the south, to Semye, which is in the east, a very far distance. And this wedding was actually months after the first one. At the time, the first one happened just before Ramadan, and the second one happened after Ramadan. People officially get married at a courthouse, like they sign documents, and usually they do that before any of these parties. But these parties are like just like a wedding without having to sign it, the wedding part where everybody gets to celebrate. So toy, the same format as the other one. Speeches, food, dancing, performances, repeat in different orders. And there were also some games. But let's talk about before that format, the bride enters. When the bride enters, she has this veil over her, just like we would see otherwise in other cultures. And she enters with the groom. And then two women, two kelin, so her brother-in-law's wives, if she has any, would stand beside her because she will become a kelin too. Kelin means a daughter-in-law, and this concept is very important in traditional Kazakh society. So two previous kelin of her new family will stand beside her, and she'll do something called bet ashar, which means to open the face. So what happens is a guy with a dombra comes up and starts singing. And in the song, he announces people's names, relatives' names of the groom's family. And these people are supposed to come up once their name has been called, hand over money. And while these people come up and hand over money, the bride bows. It's basically welcoming her into the family. And I thought this was very interesting. The guy who played the dombra, it seemed like he did this all the time because he was just a pro. And what's interesting is that her relatives are not there. They only enter after Betashar is finished. And I asked my friend Alina, why is that? And I guess it's because her family doesn't want her to see her bow to other people, Of course, there's food on the table already. The important people sit near the front, and I was actually near the front this time. There was only me as the foreign guest, and I was with the bride's family, like some family members. Obviously not like, I wasn't important. I wasn't sitting at the front, but I was with some of the bride's family. So you could say I was in the bridal party, and we sit at these circular tables, and at the front is where the bridegroom, maid of honor, and best man sit. The maid of honor role is very glamorous, or looks glamorous. Like, the maid of honor is supposed to dress up very nice. I also do want to talk about this group dancing performance and the performances. So a lot of weddings have these female performers, and they'll dance different types of dances. In the Kazakh, there was some interesting types, like regular Kazakh type of traditional dancing, but they also had Bollywood. They had a bunch of stuff. And in the Alina and Adilet, it was the same. Those female dancers do different performances throughout the time. They also were the ones who helped bring in the bride. But there's also an MC that hosts everything. The MC might perform, and there are singers, and these singers may actually sometimes just lip sync. Isn't that interesting? Sometimes they just lip sync, but also sometimes they do actually sing performances. Music, dancing, and singing are very important to Kazakh culture, in my own opinion, at least from the experiences that I've seen. So they're rampant, I guess you could say, in weddings. And if you're not dancing, people will pull you up to dance in these big groups. It's not like formal dancing and the music is toy music. I can't play any or I'll get copyright claimed. Of course, again, there's a lot of food, you're eating so much, and there are a lot of speeches. Now this time, the young guests of the bride, we weren't all required to give a speech, but out of everyone, I had to give the speech. Again, this time I had rehearsed everything I was gonna say in Kazakh. I said it all in Kazakh, just so no one would have to interpret for me. I felt burdened. Why'd they have to choose me? At the Alina and Adilet, there was also like a first dance, I guess you could say. The bride and the groom danced together. And in the first couple of dances, when people were dancing in a group, the bride and the groom stay at the table. They don't do much. But after they do their first dance, or after they did their first dance, they danced with everyone. And that's kind of nice, seeing them dance with everyone. You get to interact with them or whatever, but you can tell they look tired. They've had to sit and attentively listen to a bunch of over 70 speeches of people saying the same thing over and over again. And one thing that was interesting about the Alina and Adilet, that Alina told me was interesting, was that the tea and desserts were actually served in a separate room. This might be an Eastern Kazakhstan thing, maybe just their family thing, but in Southern Kazakhstan, during toys, you don't have a separate room where you drink tea and eat desserts, but they did this time. And all of the desserts, which were absolutely amazing, by the way, were made by the groom's family members. And I was like, oh, wow. And they were delicious. And the tea, I am such a sucker for black tea with milk now. And that's supposed to symbolize towards the end of the wedding. We've played games, we've danced a lot, we've watched people perform, we've heard a lot of speeches. I think the wedding was about 7 hours long. It was very long. Additionally, there is another Kydalyk. I'm not sure if it's actually called Kydalyk. Alina wasn't sure either. But when the bride and groom's family meet at the groom's place, that is another meeting. It might have a different name. Usually the Bet Ashar, when the girl takes the veil off of her, actually happens after this meeting. But in the case of this wedding, it was the next day that we had this type of the two families meet. And I was lucky enough to go to that. It was at the groom Adilet's family's home. They have this nice home in Sime, and it's a lot of preparation. Of course, all the women are in the kitchen, preparing tea, preparing the food, all of that type of stuff. And there's also another MC to kind of keep things moving along. He might also play the dombra. And the oldest member of the groom's family should give some type of, speech to welcome everybody. There's also some prayers that people do, and those prayers are called bataberu. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the beginning. When the bride's family arrives, all those baskets of gifts that were brought to the Kazakh or the Kydalyk on that side, they're returned full with new things. These are gifts, these might be food or chocolate, a bunch of things, but you don't have to bring a carpet this time. The carpet's already been done. So you come in with music, and I have footage of me coming in with the bride's side because I was part of the bride's family, yeah. And we come in, and that's the beginning of this. I'm gonna call it a second Kydalyk. I know it's not if anybody could give me the right answer, what it's called, that would be great. And the bride and groom's family should be sitting at one table because they're now one family, I guess you could say. I was actually sitting at a separate table, like all of the young people and even the bride and the groom didn't sit at this long table. They sat at the kids' table, I guess you could say. There were no kids sitting at the table, but it was the guests who weren't actually part of the family. We also ate the fat of something. And I'm not sure what it is. I'm gonna show a video of it, and if anybody could tell me, it was supposed to be for prosperity, luck, something like that, but if you could tell me what that fat is, we all had to eat it. And as usual, that MC kind of plays some music and people start singing together. Singing is a big part of the culture, so everybody in that whole room was singing. They were all singing different songs, and the people who are keeping this thing running, the food and everything, are the Kaylin, the old Kaylin and the new one. So they're all refilling tea, making sure that there's enough maybe juice, or I think there was even alcohol there, making sure that it was all running smoothly on the food side. And next, the thing that I missed. I can't believe I missed out. All of the young people, I guess, weren't interested. So they left, and I left with them. No one told me what was happening, but the gift exchange where all those baskets are disseminated amongst people and the gifts are given, I didn't get to see it. And apparently that's a very interesting time, and even you could get a gift at that time. I missed out on like a key experience. To be honest, I was so upset, I almost cried. And then we say goodbye to the bride's family. The bride, who's now a wife, I guess, she stays behind, and all of the bride's family gets in vans or gets in vehicles and leaves. It's another kind of emotional time because, you know, that's the time when the bride's family traditionally might never see their daughter again. But of course, in modern day, you see your daughter again, but it's still emotional. And that is a wrap up of the 2 weddings I've been to. I'm not sure if this was interesting, but it was to me at the time, and I was so thankful for my friend Alina to invite me. Marriage, weddings, children, family life in traditional Kazakh society are very important, and these events like Kozuzatu, Ulin Toy are life markers, and I wanted to experience one of these life markers. Now, they're a bit too long for me, but they're an interesting cultural experience. You really get to see how Kazakh people party. Do I want to sit through another 7-hour wedding again? That's debatable. And if I got anything incorrect, you might want to check the comments because I'm sure Kazakh people will correct me about things. But once again, don't bully my friends. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.